أهلا بكم مشاهدينا إلى حلقة جديدة من مستقبل الطاقة. هذه ملفاتنا. بعد الأخضر والأزرق مخزونات هائلة في باطن الأرض للهيدروجين الذهبي، فهل استخراجها ممكن علميا وتجاريا؟ كيف حازت أوبك اعتراف باحثي الاحتياطي الفيدرالي الأميركي بدورها في استقرار السوق النفطية؟ الهيدروجين له ميزة بيئية عند استخدامه كمصدر للطاقة، فالانبعاثات الوحيدة التي تخرج من عادم السيارة التي تعمل بالهيدروجين هو بخار الماء الصالح للشرب، ولذلك راهن كثيرون على الهيدروجين كوقود للمستقبل بدلا من الهيدروكربون الذي يصدر من احتراقه الغازات الدفيئة المتسببة بارتفاع حرارة الأرض. الدور الأهم للهيدروجين قد يكون في الصناعات الثقيلة كثيفة الطاقة مثل صناعات الصلب والإسمنت والبتروكيماويات. هذه المصانع لا يمكن أن تتحول إلى الكهرباء المنتجة من الطاقات المتجددة، ولذلك فإنها بدأت تستخدم الهيدروجين النظيف كوقود بديل لتخفيف البصمة الكربونية. وهناك استخدامات أخرى للهيدروجين كمكون صناعي لإنتاج الأمونيا والأسمدة الزراعية. الهيدروجين مشاهدينا هو العنصر الأكثر وفرة في الكون ولكن المشكلة أنه نادر الوجود بشكل مستقل في الطبيعة، غالبا ما يكون متحدا مع الكربون في النفط وغيره من المركبات الهيدروكربونية أو متحدا مع الأكسجين في الماء. ولفصله عن هذه التركيبات لابد من عمليات صناعية أو كهربائية لها تكاليفها البيئية والمالية. حالياً يتم إنتاج الهيدروجين من مصادر عديدة. هناك الهيدروجين الرمادي وهو الأكثر انتشاراً، يتم إنتاجه من غاز الميثان الذي يستخرج من حقول النفط والغاز، وهو نفسه يسمى الهيدروجين الأزرق إذا تم احتجاز الكربون الذي يصدر من عملية الإنتاج، لكن ستكون التكلفة أعلى بكثير في هذه الحال. وأخيراً الهيدروجين الأخضر الذي تسمعون عنه كثيراً هذه الأيام، فهو يستخرج من الماء عن طريق تكسير ذرة الماء المكونة من الهيدروجين والأكسجين باستخدام أجهزة التحليل الكهربائي. لكن ليكون اسمه الهيدروجين الأخضر يجب أن تكون الكهرباء المستخدمة في هذه العملية قادمة من الطاقة المتجددة، ولذلك هي أيضاً عملية مكلفة. الجديد هذه الأيام الاهتمام بالمخزون الهائل من الهيدروجين الذهبي في باطن الأرض، وهو يفوق بأضعاف احتياطيات النفط والغاز والفحم الحجري. فللمرة الأولى يقول خبراء الجيولوجيا بأن هذا المخزون يمكن الوصول إليه، وقد يكون أنظف وأقل تكلفة من الهيدروجين الأزرق أو الأخضر. نتحدث عن 5 تريليونات طن من الهيدروجين الذهبي بحسب دراسة غير منشورة لمعهد US Geological Survey الأميركية، والتي نقل عنها تقرير لصحيفة Financial Times. الشائع علمياً أن هذا المخزون بمعظمه لا يمكن الوصول إليه، لكن إذا توفرت إمكانية لاستخراج 500 مليون طن سنوياً فقط، أي 0.01% فقط من المخزون المتوفر، فإن هذا الرقم لوحده يكفي لتلبية كامل الطلب من البشرية لمئات السنين. وقد بدأ الجهود العلمية والاستثمارية تؤتي ثمارها، فهناك شركة ناشئة في أمريكا اسمها كولوما جمعت تمويلاً ب$91 مليون العام الماضي من مستثمرين، من ضمنهم شركة يملكها بيل غيتس اسمها Breakthrough Energy Ventures. شركة أمريكية أخرى اسمها Natural Hydrogen Energy حفرت بالفعل بئراً تجريبية في نبراسكا في الولايات المتحدة، وتقول إنها تحتاج لبضع سنوات فقط لتبدأ الإنتاج على مستوى تجاري. بحسب شركة الاستشارات ماكنزي هناك 350 مشروعاً ضخماً على المستوى العالمي لإنتاج الهيدروجين من كل مصادره المختلفة، ومن المتوقع أن تصل الاستثمارات في هذا القطاع إلى $500 مليار. الصعوبة في سوق الهيدروجين تكمن في الجانب اللوجستي أيضا لنقله وتخزينه، ولذلك فإن كثيرين يتوقعون نشوء سلاسل إمداد قريبة ما بين الإنتاج والاستهلاك. ضيفتنا التالية هي نائبة المدير العام للوكالة الدولية للطاقة المتجددة آيرينا جوري سينغ. تتوقع دورا كبيرا للهيدروجين في مزيج الطاقة مستقبلا، لكنها تتوقع استهلاك جزء كبير من الإنتاج محليا. لكن قبل ذلك سألتها زميلتي مايا جريديني عن التعهد الذي تم الاتفاق عليه في كوب 28 مؤخرا بمضاعفة قدرات الطاقات المتجددة 3 مرات بحلول عام 2030.
Well, you're right. At the UAE consensus, one of the big outcomes was the tripling of renewables target, which a large number of countries signed on to, and also the doubling of energy efficiency. And I'm very happy to say that IRENA, as you know, has done a lot of analytics, and we had brought this out that we need to, by 2030, reach a goal of about 11,000 gigawatts. So we are, of course, very happy to have contributed our bit to making this UAE consensus. And for us, it's also important to keep tracking it, because it's not enough to set a target, as you very clearly said, but now is the time for implementation, for very clear action plans and strategies to get rolled out on the ground. And governments need to be, to think through the various challenges that they will have to face, like building up the infrastructure for a very new system, which is not centralized but completely decentralized, and it has the intermittency. And you can see we are standing under the sun, and it's moving back and forth. And this impacts the power from the sun when you go solar. So I'd say policies always need to be in place which are enabling, and you need to also look at building the human capacity, the skill force to be able to make that transition. So there are a large number of challenges, but not without opportunities. We have opportunities of the kind that countries can actually shift gear and move into green manufacturing and create a completely new economic stream and a revenue stream out of it.
So how much investment is needed in order to achieve those ambitious goals?
So the requirement is large. So we had last year a fairly good year as far as investments go, of about 1.3 trillion US dollars in energy transition technologies, but the goal is to reach about triple that. And also to say that 1/3 of what will go into the power generation setup would need to go in infrastructure, which means we need to go to about $600 billion a year in investments in infrastructure if we are able to visualize and move into the new energy system.
Also, when we talk about clean energy, obviously green hydrogen comes to mind, but still a lot needs to be done in order to develop green hydrogen at a competitive price to other energy sources at the moment. So how can this be achieved, and how far are we from using green hydrogen more mainstream?
So, when we talk about green hydrogen, or even hydrogen for that matter, what we need to consider is that this is not something that will become like solar and wind are today. So it's not, something that you can put on your rooftop and start running, not for a few days, a few years at least. So it's a segment of hard-to-abate sectors like long-distance shipping, for industries like steel, cement, which are big emitters, but you don't have solutions for them as yet, and they need very high levels of energy and temperature. And that's where hydrogen will start playing a role. So I would say that this is a space we still need to watch. definitely hydrogen will have a role to play, and there's a lot of action that's already started happening in countries. Our estimate at least tells us that a lot more of the hydrogen that is produced will get domestically consumed. It's not as if it'll, a lot of it will become commodities or molecules that can get transported. A sizable amount will be, but a lot will have to be locally consumed as well. So I think this is still a space that we need to watch, but a very interesting space, because this is really the future that we want to also integrate into our energy system.
نتوقف الآن مشاهدينا مع فاصل قصير نتابع بعده في مستقبل الطاقة. رسائل وإشارات أوبك للسوق تخفف التقلبات السعرية في النفط. أهلا بكم من جديد مشاهدينا إلى القسم الثاني من حلقتنا هذا الأسبوع في مستقبل الطاقة. تقرير لافت أعده باحثون في الاحتياطي الفيدرالي الأميركي انتهى في خلاصته إلى أن رسائل أوبك الإعلامية تساهم في تخفيف تقلبات أسعار النفط وتدفع المشاركين في السوق إلى إعادة موازنة مراكزهم. حول هذا التقرير حاورت دكتور سارة فخشوري مؤسسة ورئيسة شركة SVP Energy International، وسألتها بداية ماذا تبرهن لنا هذه الدراسة الحديثة حول أهمية دور أوبك في السوق النفطية.
OPEC obviously plays a significant role in the market when it comes to the physical supply to the market and the market fundamentals, because their decisions obviously determines that how much oil is going to be in the market by the membering countries. So it has been historically playing a very important role in the market. However, this report opens a very interesting aspect to significance of OPEC, and that's how OPEC's messaging, whatever includes from the written statements of OPEC to oral and signalings that OPEC members, the ministers and officials are signaling to market, including the data and how it impacts the market.
The study, Sarah, concludes that OPEC signals are highly related to oil market volatility and to traders' positions as well, and that it is associated with lower volatility in the futures contract space. Doesn't this reinforce what OPEC always reiterates, that it is a force of stability, and unlike what others might sometimes say, that OPEC is a cartel that always tries to push prices higher?
This is actually a very good point, because one aspect of energy security is the stability of prices and the stability of the market, obviously, because that directly fits in the energy security. And in fact, this report is a testimony and testifying that OPEC's role has been a positive role in terms of stabilizing the market. And how that is in terms of this report, which talks about OPEC messaging, has impact in the market. Something that is very important to take into account is market expectations. So market expectations, we call it psychology of the market or market sentiments, they all have very important impact on the prices, or what we want to call it price volatility. So what this report indicates is that how OPEC messaging helped with market stability and lowering the volatility, which is very interesting because if you go through the details, this is a very large report, almost 60 pages. If you look at the methodology of the report, something that is very important to consider is that today, in today's market, it's not just human being that it's forecasting or have effect on the prices. We have algorithm. It's all those forecasting and pricing algorithm that traders, banks, investors, everybody are dealing with them. How does the mind of algorithm work? Obviously, algorithm has access to a larger data sets and is very sensitive to every keyword, every signal and message in the market. So if we look at, for instance, if a human being wants to do a market analysis, they will look at the supply and demand and whatever could impact on these both. But this report even look at a factor like speculative factor, market sentiments, and this shows that the messages, the signals, and the performance in terms of messaging of OPEC has been in a way that had reduced factors, less expectations that and sentiments that could create volatility. So that's part of a natural process. But again, going back to OPEC's role, I think there are so many important factors to consider. One of that is expectations of future. And you know, I mean, we are now currently at the market, at an environment that there's a huge discrepancy between the expectations from today's market up to medium and long term in future, where the demand is heading, where the supply is heading, the assumptions that are there between different organizations. The discrepancy is very huge. And all these huge discrepancies could obviously create an unstable market. But if I want to go back to some of those messaging, when the recent conflict in Middle East broke up between Israel and Palestine, what happened, we had the Saudi Energy Minister, Prince Abdulaziz, coming to the statement saying that OPEC plus Saudi Arabia, also Russia, we are still committed to our voluntarily cut. So all these sorts of messaging that comes from the market kind of comforts the market, but also, particularly since COVID, the leadership within the OPEC and the strategy, I would like to go back to Saudi Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz mentioning the 3P, the principles for the market, that OPEC has been proactive, preemptive and precautious. So when you look at their strategy, particularly since COVID, was to give certainty to market.
Yes.
Why? Because during the COVID, we had a significant uncertainty with regard to demand. So OPEC, by giving out long-term, medium-term, in advance decisions, announcing its decisions for future production, kind of gave a certainty to the market with regard to the supply.
If we sum up, Sarah, all these attributes that we spoke about now with regards to OPEC, about its significance, its credibility, the stability that it provides to the oil markets, how can we compare the role of OPEC to that of a central bank, such as the Federal Reserve Bank, for example?
Again, that goes back to the power OPEC has, first of all, in terms of production and actual supply, and how OPEC regulates the market by physical impact on the market. But again, this report proves that OPEC has been very responsible and very reliable source in terms of any types of messaging, and that comes from OPEC's statement to OPEC's predictions, numbers, outlook, and also signaling to give an assurance and certainty to the market. And that's part of what a central bank's role is. Speculators could make benefit from price volatility, but something that is very important in a market is investment, and investors require certainty. Going back to what I said about COVID, at the time of significant uncertainty on the demand side, by giving a certainty into let's say next 12 months in terms of supply, OPEC was kind of giving some ease and assurance to the market and to investors to at least being able to have a clear view on one side of the fundamentals, which is supply. So that shows that OPEC is playing that role in a very reliable and responsible way, not just by managing the market in terms of physical fundamentals, but also in terms of market sentiments and impact on the psychology of the market. You mentioned the future volatility, which again goes back to the expectations.
Sarah, moving on from the messaging and the role of OPEC in terms of providing stability for the market, let's talk a little bit about the market fundamentals. Prices were about $97 at the end of September last year. Since the beginning of this year, it has been trading in a tight range of around $10, between $73 and $83. Now, there are some worries about the rate of growth of global demand. There are bigger worries maybe about the rate of growth in non-OPEC plus supply this year. Do you expect now that OPEC plus needs to extend the additional cuts not only until the end of June, but they might have to extend it till the end of the year?
I'd like to go back to 2019 because we are talking about signaling and messaging. I remember the first speech of Saudi energy minister in the World Energy Congress. When the media approached him and asked him about the upcoming meetings outcome, he said that this is about consensus, and recently even he says that he's not a fortune teller. He waits for the consensus and then the outcome comes out. And with regard to what you talk, it's very hard to predict what would be there could be expectations, but what is important is that, again, goes back to what are your assumptions for the market. For me, I see a healthy growth of demand and also healthy growth in demand and also supply growth this year, which kind of, in my view, I see a balanced market. However, if you look at, let's say, different data producing institution, let's say OPEC's expectations, IEA's expectations, EIA's, or even different agencies' expectations, they all have a huge discrepancy, wide range of expectations. One expects a demand growth of 1.1 million barrels per day, one expects 2.1 million barrels per day. So depending on where you go, you can have different expectations, but I follow that guidelines of not predicting, because I'm not a fortune teller, but I would say what we just learned from this paper, we could be assured that OPEC constantly monitors the market, and that's what specifically they started as their strategy since COVID. They are more regularly monitoring the market, and they adjust their production with the market needs. And I would say that, just conclude my remarks by saying that OPEC has been successful in, based on reports, to create certainty and stability in terms of volatility in the market while managing to be very unpredictable.
إذن مشاهدينا، بهذا نأتي إلى ختام هذه الحلقة من مستقبل الطاقة. دائما تابعونا على منصة X تحت وسم #مستقبل الطاقة. يمكنكم أيضا مشاهدة حلقات البرنامج كاملة على موقعنا الإلكتروني العربية.net/programs. نلتقي وإياكم الأسبوع المقبل. إلى اللقاء.